Welcome to another gluten-free and yeast-free baking video. How are we doing today? Just so you know, I have an industrial estate behind my studio and they're doing a heck of a lot of work out there, and I have both of the dogs sleeping down here, so in case that's background noise you hear during this video, I thought I'd do a little disclaimer. But today we are going to be making gluten-free short crust pastry. It is something I've wanted to move into for a while in terms of baking, as I love pies and I've really missed not being able to have them since I've turned gluten-free, yeast-free and lactose-free. And I'm also making a pie for dinner tonight. So, you will be needing the following equipment: scales, measuring spoons, a knife, a spatula, a round pie dish, mine is 22 centimetres in diameter, a large mixing bowl, some baking paper and a rolling pin. The pie dish, as I forgot the name as I just said it, pie dish you don't necessarily need if you're not putting it on a pie straight away. You may have already made the filling and you're just looking for a video on how to make gluten-free pastry. That is totally fine. I am not putting a filling in, I'm just showing you how to make the basic pastry. You will also be needing the following ingredients: 200 grams of gluten-free plain flour, 125 grams of butter cold, I like to use lactose-free butter, 4 to 6 tablespoons of water, and 1 medium-sized egg beaten. You will only be needing the egg when you are actually cooking the pastry. Let's go! And this recipe makes approximately 365 grams of gluten-free short crust pastry. So the first thing we have to do in actually making our pastry is to add all of our cold butter. It has to be cold, do not get it out until you are ready to use it. There we go. And then sprinkle on your plain flour, covering the butter. Now that that is ready and you have washed your hands, place your hands inside the bowl and rub together until they resemble breadcrumbs. Be careful though, after a certain period of time it will start to form in your hands. Stop at that point, or if you can, stop before, otherwise it will ruin the pastry. Trust me, I practiced it, it just doesn't work. Make sure to remove all jewellery from your hands as well, because getting this out of that will be hard. And I think I'm going to stop there because it's starting to come together a little bit. I think this is because I add more butter into my recipe than most pastries, because I like the taste of it. Forgive me if anything's moved and my hands are clean. The memory card ran out of recording capacity, so I've had to fix that, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be able to record this video. So now that we've done this part and it is looking brilliant, grab your water, your knife and your measuring spoons. So now that we've got our water, our knife and our measuring spoons, we will actually only be needing the tablespoon, so let's get rid of the rest. There we go. So now what we're going to do, and I actually find the easiest method because it's 4 to 6, so depending on your environment, it will depend on how much water you add. I'm going to add a tablespoon of water at a time, using my knife to cut the water into the pastry. Dough, mixture, what's in this mixing bowl? Oh, I can probably live in there. Might be an idea fix. By the way, by the time you finish this, if it starts to look a bit wet, don't worry, it's going in the freezer for 15 minutes, so that will solidify it. Right, so that's cut in. Tablespoon number 2. Actually might not be a bad idea between each addition of water to just run your spatula around the bowl to make sure all of the pastry is getting together. Tablespoon number 3, I think so. I'm just going to do it until it forms a ball, if I'm honest. I'm not really keeping an eye on how many I'm putting in. Oh, it's getting there. How strange that all these things just... You know, who would have thought to add these things together to make it pastry? It's actually quite remarkable. Honestly, the amount of trains that go by in these videos is insane. If you think how hard, when my mum was working in London, how long she had to wait for a train, they do nothing but drive past here. It's crazy. So if you want an arm workout, this is one. See, it's not quite forming a ball yet. Is it? Are you? I'll do some more cutting and then I'll look. do it with the spatula, see how it comes out. You a ball? Yeah, I'd say you're about there if I'm honest. Okay, let's pop that down. Now you see, I didn't have to add the entire 6 tablespoons of water. It just depends on your environment, but be aware of that. I mean, this feels incredibly wet, but it's hard. It's like stiff, so, you know, it depends on where you are really, so just make adjustments as you see fit. But this is the ball of my dough. So you've got a rough idea. Whoa, you've got a rough idea. So now that this is done, grab your baking paper. So now that we've got our dough, our spatula and our baking paper, we are going to, once I clean the surface a little bit, there we go. We are going to roll out our baking paper to a certain size. It's just got to fit the amount of dough you're putting in. I haven't got my scissors, so I'm just going to tear it. Put it this way. And now paste this to one side because we don't need it anymore. Do not fall. It is not helpful when you fall. Now place your dough into your baking paper. Wrap your dough in baking paper. You can flatten it out a bit if you like to try and make it easier when you roll. But it needs to be wrapped up, and it needs to be wrapped up good. There we go. So now that our pastry is all wrapped up, we're going to place it into the freezer to have a little rest, a little sleep, whatever it needs to do. I mean, I would have a cat nap personally for 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if it's a bit longer, but it needs to be in for those 15 minutes, and I will see you after that. And welcome back. I actually left my pastry in for another 2-3 minutes because I was in the middle of washing up. But you can feel it, it's hard, but it's still malleable. You can still move it around. So now what we've got to do is unwrap it. And now we've got to grab our rolling pin, our baking paper and a little more flour just for rolling. So now that we've got our flour, our baking paper and our rolling pin, we are going to, which I didn't read my steps before, we're going to quickly just close this up, move this to the side, create another piece of baking paper to roll out your pastry on, a little bit longer. Again, I don't have my scissors, so we're just improvising. Place this down, and actually it might be an idea, no, because I'm going to use this. Keep hold of some things so that you can hold the baking paper down. It doesn't seem to be doing it for me today. Move that over. There we go. And now we are going to sprinkle some flour on top of our baking paper for the rolling process. Just so it doesn't stick, because I actually find using baking paper to get it onto what you're cooking a little bit easier. I thought there was someone there. That scared the life out of me. Okay. Grab our baking paper, grab our pastry and bung that on top. There we go. Oh, there we go. Oh, we don't need it. I was going to add this to the rolling pin, but we don't need it. Okay. I'm a bit all over the place today, guys. Bear with me. Oh no, I need that. It's all going wrong. Right, okay. Rolling pin. So now we're just going to roll out our pastry. Oh. No, I'm going to roll it without the pastry, without the baking paper. I think I'm going to find it a bit easier. Oh, I can't go. There we go. Add some on there. Add some on here. And roll it around until it's nice and thin. It's your choice how thin you want it for your pastry topping. I mean, if you're not making this for, if you're making this for a pie or something, then follow these steps. But if you aren't actually making it today, then don't worry, you've got everything you need anyway. Now, will that fit my pie dish later on tonight? Yes, it will. So, there you go. So this is my recipe for gluten-free short crust pastry. This is it in actual pie form. Oh, it's slip and sliding. There we go. I am not the best at pastry, guys. I'm not the best at decoration. I am not going to pretend that I am. I actually like that it doesn't seem to have gone to plan, because to me that makes it a bit more homely and homemade as it is. So Basically, that's it, and I hope you have enjoyed this video. Check out all the links in the description, as I love them all and wouldn't put them there if I didn't, including the recipe for this lovely pastry and my shop where you will be able to buy all the flour and the equipment you will need for this recipe. If you do make this at home, don't forget to tag me on Instagram and use the hashtag bakingwithvicky, which I will put above me as there's room up there and nowhere else really. Let me know in the comments of anything you'd like me to make gluten or yeast free, as I do both. And finally, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you want to see more. I will see you next time. Bye!